Thank you all for joining and welcome to today's event, Dispatch from Deir Istiya with the Green Olive Collective and Nazeem Al-Suleiman. My name is Erez Bleicher and I'm the Advocacy and Membership Director of the Green Olive Collective, an advocacy, human rights, and tour guiding center committed to a democratic future, the end of the ongoing Nakba, and the Palestinian right of return. We provide communities around the world with insight into the apartheid policies of the occupation and the resources to engage in meaningful advocacy in direct and tangible solidarity with Palestinians living under occupation. Your contributions for today's event will support our urgent work to challenge ongoing policies of displacement, forced transfer, and military occupation in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. We need contributions from you, our wider community, in order to sustain grassroots initiatives with Palestinian communities on the ground, including the replanting of olive trees after arson attacks by settlers, rebuilding homes after demolitions, and cultivating lands threatened with expropriation. You can contribute at sowingsolidarity.com, which I just put into the chat moments ago. Of course, all of you are aware that we are joining together today during an escalating regional crisis and catastrophe. And as ballistics missiles and drones fly overhead, military authorities and settler militias are, even as we speak, exploiting the shift of international attention toward the war with Iran to launch a barrage of attacks and operations throughout the West Bank and seize Palestinian land while global attention lies elsewhere. So it's very important that we're joining together today also to put focus on conditions on the ground in the West Bank. Today, we are very honored to be with you, Nazeem Al-Suleiman, who is a lifelong community advocate, resident, and former mayor of Deir Istiya, to focus our attention on conditions in the northern West Bank, where occupation forces are attempting to bifurcate the region by constructing a corridor of settlement outposts along Route 505 as one part of a broader strategy of control. Deir Istiya is located directly beside Route 505 and is facing escalating attacks as settlers seek to dominate the region. And before we begin, and I pass it over to you, Nazeem, very shortly, I just wanted to show everyone where you're joining us from today on a map and where Deir Istiya is. One moment while I share my screen. Beautiful. I hope everyone can see this. And as you can see, we're looking at a broader map of the region and of the West Bank at large. And if we zoom in on the northern half of the West Bank, we have here the city of Nablus. Here is Hawara, Burin, where we've spoken with the community many times. And here is Deir Istiya. If we zoom out again, we can see that Deir Istiya in the northern half of the West Bank lies directly beside Route 505 and Route 5, connecting the settlements, the Israeli settlements of the north of the West Bank to Tel Aviv. This is significant because, as my colleague Mohammed Barakat of the Green Olive Collective, who is here with us today, has told me and has documented firsthand for many years, the Israeli occupation authorities and settlers are attempting to construct a corridor of settlements along Route 505 and Route 5 here, connecting the major settlements of the north, like Ariel, to Tel Aviv, which effectively enacts de facto annexation and would facilitate the solidification of Israeli control over the West Bank and the constriction and bifurcation of Palestinian land between different regions of the West Bank, creating territorial discontinuity for Palestinian life. As you can see, Route 60 here, that runs from the north to the south of the West Bank and is a major thoroughfare, has long separated many agricultural communities from the cities they've developed historically in relationship to. And now they wish to further cement their control by also bifurcating not only north to south, but in many capacities east to west along major routes connecting the Israeli settlements to the major cities on the other side of the Green Line and enacting this uh, control on both sides of the Green Line. With that, I want to pass to you, Nazmi, to share much more with us in your own words and as a lifelong community advocate. And I want to start, of course, by just asking you to share more about yourself. Can you please share what's your name, where are you from, where is your family from? Please introduce yourself and share more about the various ways you have acted as a public advocate in Deir Istiya. You should be able to unmute.
One who's joining with us now. I am from the village of Deir Istiya in the West Bank. It is a Palestinian village located northwest of Salfit Governorate, which is a Palestinian city surrounding by Israeli settlements, mainly Ariel settlement, which is the second largest imposed on the Palestinian land after Ma'ale Adumim. The village of Deir Istiya is almost 4,500 people who are living in the village, and more than 500 people were also they are living in Ramallah because their works is there. More than 6,000 people of the village of Deir Istiya, they were forced to leave their homeland, and now they are immigrants in Jordan and the United States and Europe, everywhere, like other Palestinians. The village of Deir Istiya is actually being targeted by Israeli occupation forces and by Israeli settlements and settlers. There are 9 settlements were built on the Palestinian private land of the people of Deir Istiya. And in the last 3 years, there are also outposts very close to the main entrance of the village, in the west part of the village and in the northern part of the village. After 7th of October 2023, there are many outposts, mainly for shepherds with their goats and sheep. Nowadays, large areas of olive fields, which belongs to farmers and the people of Deir Istiya, we cannot reach our land because of the violence and terror of settlers. One very important and beautiful area belongs to Deir Istiya is called Wadi Kana, means Wadi Kana Valley. It is surrounded by Israeli settlements, like a group of settlements started with Emmanuel, Alon Shiloh, Karnei Shamron, Ma'ale Shamron, Jannat Shamron, and Al-Matan, Nufim, Yakir, and one more military basements to the IOF, Israeli Occupation Forces, and also a training field for the Israeli army. With 2 illegal outposts more were established in the last 3 years, and the last one was established in the first week of olive harvest, the year 2025. And now the village of Deir Istiya, the area of Wadi Kana, was declared as a nature reserve area by the Israeli occupation authorities in 1983. On the 2nd of May 1983, there was no Palestinian Authority and no Oslo Agreement. There was only the state of occupation. From their side, they declared the area as a nature reserve area. That was a decision by the Israeli military rule in the occupied territories, in the West Bank. From that time till now, the area, which is very rich with citrus fields and groves like lemon, oranges, and other trees. And also there are natural springs, water spring running year around, and there are also more than 5 water pools. People use this water to irrigate their fields, which is they plant trees and different vegetables and fruits. And there are also people living with depending on animals like goats and sheep and cows. Nowadays, this area is surrounded by settlements and settlers every time and everywhere. There is only one road which was blocked by Israeli gate to stop Palestinians from accessing this area. In the last until 2023, thousands of people from Palestine, I mean in the West Bank, also inside the Greenland, they used to come at the weekend, thousands to Wadi Kana. This area is the only area that people can come and stay day long without paying even a penny or even one shekel. They come to the area, they enjoy the beautiful scene and water running springs. At the end of the day, they go to their homes. But because of the propaganda by settlers and provocative on the Israeli social media, mainly by settlers, the IAF, they put an iron gate at the entrance of the valley and stopped Palestinians from being there. Now also they forced farmers who lived there, who were displaced from their homelands in after Palestinian Nakba in 1948. Last week, they forced them to leave the area in Wadi Kana. After more than 75 years, they were living there, depending on farms and animals. This is going on around the village. Now it is impossible for farmers to reach their olive fields in the western part of the village because of settlers who have also their cows and fields. They every time they attack people. Yesterday, they hold one Palestinian farmer who has his goat very close to the village in the western part of the village. The settler called the army and they hold him for more than 8 hours. They freed him, released him before. Now it is the month of Ramadan. We are keeping fast. They released him 10 minutes before Adhan, breaking fast. The same thing yesterday. I was coming back from Salfit, the center of the governorate. They closed the main entrance of the village with iron gate, of the city with iron gate, and the army was there. They stopped everyone till 5:20, and then they say you are not allowed to cross the gate. I asked him if we can call a taxi to take us to the village. They refused, and after that, they left us. So we called the taxi. We reached our homes, our families to join our families for because of Ramadan. It was already the time of iftar. I mean, breaking fast. This is the daily life of Palestinians in the occupied territories, and what's going on in Deir Istiya is a typical to the whole life of Palestinians. Yesterday, also, settlers shot dead 2 Palestinian brothers in the village of Karyut, which is southern part of Nablus. And this happened everywhere from the south in Hebron and Masafir Yatta to Ramallah, Nablus, and Palestinians' north and middle valleys. And also nowadays, settlers are coming back to Jenin. There are 4 settlements were evacuated in 2005, and now because of the policy of the Israeli right-wing government, mainly Smotrich and Ben Gvir. Smotrich himself visited Sanur settlement, and there was signs which written on that signs, death to Arabs. And now they return to Sanur and Tersella and other settlements. Myself, I am from the village. I have my own family. I am father of five, four boys and one girls, and I have also two granddaughters. I am living in Deir Istiya. I work as a school principal. I hold my master degree from Birzeit University in the Bank, master degree in education. And when I was 20 years old, I was in the Israeli occupation detention camps in Israeli jails. It was an administrative detention for 6 months. And 2 months ago, the Israeli occupation forces, they came to my house in dawn hours around when dawn prayers, they invade my house, more than 30 soldiers, they hold me in one room separated from my family. Also, they put my wife and my two children. One of them is a doctor and the other is an engineer. They put them in separated rooms and they hold them with their eyes, blinded eyes, and they tied their hands to their back for more than 2.5 hours. And this is actually a daily routine for the majority of Palestinians everywhere in the occupied West Bank. And nowadays, the same thing is in Gaza Strip, but things there are worsening every day. Even when President Trump declared or announced the end of the war, but still the Palestinians are facing death every day. The village of Deir Istiya, surrounded by Palestinian villages like Qarawat Bani Hassan, which is also suffering from settlers and settlements, and two young people were shot dead by settlers in the village of Qarawat Bani Hassan, which is western part of Deir Istiya. We have also Haris, Kifil Haris, and nowadays there are also illegal outposts in the northern part of the village, an area called Al-Qadi. They forced Palestinian farmers who are living in rural areas to leave their places and come back to their roots in the village of Deir Istiya. The village of Deir Istiya is well known for olive oil production because we have large areas planted with olive trees, which is one of the main sources of income for the people of the village. Also, we have four schools. We have health medical care clinic, which is a governmental one, and also the village is known for education. The people of the village are highly educated. We have more than 150 high degrees, doctorate degrees, and more than 500 people hold master's degree, and we have 900 school children and 450 university students in Palestinian universities in Egypt and outside.
Shukran,
Yes,
Nazeem.
welcome.
It's very helpful to hear this context and hear about recent events also. And despite some of the painful realities you're describing, everyone here, of course, wants to wish you and your family Ramadan Kareem and Mubarak.
Shukran, thank you.
And I want to return soon to discussing more of the events of these last days, where just as you're describing, of course, every year in Ramadan, actually, we see this increase of closures on the villages and an increase in attacks. But this year, in the climate of regional instability, the occupation authorities, the military, and settlers are taking advantage of the impunity of this moment to really rampage throughout the West Bank. And there's been so many difficult um, processes we've been seeing these last days. But before returning to the last days and this moment, shortly, I want to go back and maybe ask you to share with us more about how things developed to arrive to this moment. So you said you grew up in Deir Istiya since you were a child, if I understand
Yeah.
correctly. I'm
Yes.
curious to ask, how is life different now than it was then? What do you remember about life in the past? And did you always know you wanted to be mayor? How did you come to be mayor, and when did you serve as mayor of Deir Istiya?
Uh, First of all, the situation nowadays is worsen every day. You just imagine from Saturday morning when the war started and there were sirens till now, every village has an iron gate which is closed by the Israeli occupation forces. I mean, if I want to go to Salfit or to go to Nablus, I have to go first to the junction, which is very close to the iron gate at the entrance of the village. Then I have to call a taxi, which means more rental payment. And to go to the entrance of Nablus, there is also military checkpoint and iron gates. It is very difficult, and life is very difficult here. We are in a big prison. We cannot go freely anyway, either to hospital or to university or school. Schools from Saturday are closed. We are now adapting education through Teams, which is like Zoom actually. And also universities are now, they have electronic learning or distance learning. We have shortage of gas and shortage of kerosene oil. We have shortage of main things here because no supply. The cars and the distributors, they cannot come to the village because of the military closure. Now, it is very important nowadays to that the whole world know the facts, what's going on the ground against Palestinian people, not only by settlers, but also officially by the government and different departments of civil administration and Israeli occupation forces. The army, they close the entrances and the roads with iron gates or military checkpoints, and settlers, they attack people and they attack villagers and they attack the villages. You remember and you hear about the mosque in the village of Deir Istiya, and last week also they attacked a mosque very close to Nablus city between two villages, Sarra and Tel. And
Nasim,
yesterday,
sorry to interrupt you, but I think some people here aren't familiar with the incident at the mosque
yeah,
Deir Istiya this past November, if I have it right. Can you tell people more about what happened and how it impacted the community?
three settlers, as were seen on cameras, they came to the village after midnight. There is a mosque. It is on the surrounds of the village. They came after midnight where they have inflammable kerosene. They pour kerosene inside the mosque and they set fire. So when the imam came for dawn prayers, he was astonished and surprised to see that the mosque was on fire, burning. So he called the Palestinian civil fire, and he called neighbors. They controlled the fire, and Israeli occupation forces, they came after 3 hours. But until now, from November till March, we don't hear anything, or we don't hear that they arrested any settler or anyone of the criminals who attack the mosque. And this is, by the way, not the first time. A couple of years also earlier, they attacked another mosque in the village of Deir Istiya named Ali ibn Abi Talib Mosque. The same way, they came to the village, they infiltrated into the village after midnight. But when the army came to the village, they found a mobile phone belongs to one of the criminals. But even so, we didn't hear anything of that someone was arrested or interrogated or was put into jail. While every day they raiding Palestinian towns and arrested so many Palestinians from my village. 2 weeks ago, they came to the village, they arrested two young people, they referred them to administrative detentions for 6 months, every one of them.
It's horrible and I'm
Nowadays,
sorry to hear. Just to interrupt you, and apologies
yeah,
to disrupt. I think some people aren't familiar with the term administrative detention. So if there's anyone here who's not familiar, Nazmi is referring to a practice in which military soldiers on the military places Palestinians on the West Bank under arrest in for uh, I actually
without interrogation, without charges,
right, no charges,
they
no due
they they
process.
claim that there is a secret file. You know, they claim that there is a secret file, so they referred him to administrative attention for 6 months, and mostly they also extended for the first time, second time, 3 times. One of the village, he was arrested for 2 years administrative attentions. And after that, the fourth time, he went to the Israeli High Court, and the lawyer he stopped this decision of administrative detention. Nowadays, the people are suffering a lot, mainly of the occupation state, and nowadays the violence of settlers is escalating everywhere, every day. They are changing the way of how Palestinians are living. They imposing facts on the ground. They changing the face of the West Bank by putting their hand on large areas of Palestinian towns, and also they have their own infrastructure. I mean, they constructing roads to connect settlements and outposts, and to disconnect Palestinian towns and villages. Aerial footage shows that the Palestinian towns now are separated, while settlements are connecting with roads. From in the year 2025, they constructed more than 25 يعني 1,400 kilometers of roads to connect settlements, and now they are constructing a road which separated the West Bank, northern and southern part. And settlers, they also put the flags of the state of occupation, I mean Israeli flags, around the roads on your right hand and your door is right and left hand. While going everywhere, you can see Israeli flags for visitors to Palestinian towns and villages and cities who don't know the area. Now, the face of the area, it seems that it is an Israeli land, and this is like a propaganda by settlers and by ministers like Smotrich and Ben Gvir. This is the policy of controlling and dominating the Palestinian land in order to liquidate the Palestinian national cause of independence and establishment of Palestinian state. Now they declared tenders for building thousands of housing units in many settlements. One of them is Ariel and one is Nofim. which is on the land of Deir Istiya. They 135 housing units supposed to be built in Nofim, which is very close. It is overlooking Wadi Kana. The situation in the West Bank nowadays, settlers are trying to build their own government and ruling, dominating in the West Bank. And at the same time, the Israeli ministers like Smotrich, every time he announced that this is the year of annexation of Palestinian land, and there was also decisions by the Israeli government, which means the cabinet, to allow settlers to buy Palestinian lands directly. They changed the rule, which was a Jordanian rule from the year 1953, before the Israeli 1967 war and the occupation of the Palestinian land. This means that nowadays people are very worried about the future of their ownership of the land, because they may be now there are certain companies, they are very active outside of Palestine to make deals of land, and this is very dangerous thing. Now the Israeli government facilitates the settlers' activities to control Palestinian land everywhere, from Hebron in the south to Jenin in the north.
Yes,
Several times.
we're seeing it everywhere. And again, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to maybe show people a little bit of what you're talking about so they can see and understand more fully what these settler attacks look like and what the activities and the systematic takeover and de facto annexation of land looks like. You mentioned a little bit ago the attack on the mosque, and at the time,
Yes.
you spoke yourself to many international media outlets condemning the attack. The attack was also condemned itself by the UN. And I have here a video of you speaking at the time with footage from the attack and of the mosque. So I thought to share it if that's all right, so that people can see. One moment.
كالعادي كل يوم بتوجه قبل المصلين عند ساعات الفجر الأولى قبل أذان الفجر، بحيث أني أفتح المسجد وأصلي في المصلين. فتفاجأت عند وصولي للمسجد أن الباب مفتوح أو مكسور بالأحرى، والنار مشتعلة بداخل المسجد. حاولت الدخول إلى المسجد وإطفاء النيران، لم أتمكن بسبب الدخان الكثيف وبسبب النيران المشتعلة. توجهت فورا إلى الدفاع المدني المقام في بلدة دير استيا. قاموا فورا بتلبية النداء وتعاملوا مع الحريق بالشكل المناسب وقاموا بإطفاء النيران.
هذا الاعتداء ليس الاعتداء الأول على دور العبادة والمساجد. تعرض مسجد الإمام علي بن أبي طالب في دير إستيا سابقا لاعتداءات مماثلة لمرتين، وفي كل مرة كان يحضر كما حضر اليوم جيش الاحتلال وشرطة الاحتلال، وقاموا بأخذ أدلة ورفع بصمات وغيرها. ولكن حتى الآن لم نسمع ولم نقرأ عن قيام الاحتلال باتخاذ أي إجراءات بحق أي من المعتدين، بمعنى أن هذه الجرائم لا تلقى العقاب.
Now, this impunity that the settlers are granted, of course, that you pointed out to us today, and also you made sure to focus on in the interview we just saw, of course, is by design. Impunity for settlers is Israeli government state policy in the West Bank in order to advance facts on the ground, as Nazmi said, and to allow settlers to be the shock troops of the occupation, committing violence without any consequences. You mentioned that in the last days, also there's been an escalation. So I wanted to give people just a glimpse into that also and show a video that was taken by a colleague of ours at the Green Olive Collective, a citizen journalist named Andre. So I'll show that, and then I wanted to hear more about Wadi Kana. So one moment, and I'll give people a glimpse.
Now, but I need you to pause for 1 minute and see what's happening in the West Bank, because the settlers and the army are using the war as a distraction in order to launch a massive series of assaults all over the area. So here's what happened in the past 2 days since Israel has launched this war on Iran. In Douma, the settlers launched a massive assault armed with sticks and with pepper spray, leaving several Palestinians and solidarity activists injured. Then the Israeli army invaded and arrested 4 Palestinians, including a 10-year-old child, as well as a solidarity activist. In Qusra, for the second time in 2 days, the settlers launched an assault on the village, leaving several Palestinians severely injured. In Kwawais, the settlers opened fire with live ammunition at children who were gathering herbs in the hills. In Kwawais, the settlers shot a Palestinian with live ammunition, and then the army invaded and, as always, arrested the Palestinian victims of the attack. In Taiba, the settlers invaded together with the army and stole 2 horses from the Palestinians. In Al-Farsiyeh, the settlers stoned a Palestinian house in the middle of the night and threw a tear gas grenade inside while everyone was sleeping. And across the West Bank, the Israeli army has shut down checkpoints, essentially isolating several communities from the outside world completely. Israel is relying on the fact that everyone is focused on the war with Iran to accelerate its ethnic cleansing of the West Bank. So I implore everybody to amplify what's happening in the West Bank right now as much as possible. I know you.
So as Andre said, we're also gathering now today with Nazmi as part of efforts to give our attention and give our ears to voices on the ground, drawing attention to what's happening on the ground and in communities in the West Bank. And Nazmi, you mentioned Wadi Kana. In the Green Olive Collective, we've worked in the last months to help plant olive trees in the valley and also to harvest some of the citrus groves. And this past Sunday, we were notified by farmers we've been working with and harvesting citrus with in the last weeks that the army issued mass eviction notices to 40 residents in the west of the valley. And this was, so people can see, a glimpse into that in a video we posted this Sunday.
You know, there is a war by settlers and by Israeli occupation forces against international volunteers and activists who show solidarity to Palestinian people. They attacked them. They assault them physically and with tear gas and with pepper into their eyes. This is everywhere in Doma, in Masafir Yatta, in Karyut, Kusra, and even in the village of Deir Istiya, when international volunteers were helping farmers to collect olives during olive harvest season. Armed settlers with machine guns, they came to the field and they opened fire, and also they hit one international volunteer from America and she was lifted to the hospital. Nowadays, there are a group of settlers who carried out terror attacks against Palestinians, massive terror attacks, and they shot dead many Palestinians. During the year 2025, 26 Palestinians were shot dead by settlers in the village of Kufr Malik, in the village of Akraba, in the village. One Palestinian teacher, his name Oda Hadalin, was shot dead by one Israeli settler. 5 of the family members of the Palestinian teacher who was killed were arrested, and the settler who was seen on TV, he was not arrested. This means that this policy is not an randomly policy by settlers, but it is supported by the Israeli right-wing government, mainly ministers like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, who distributed cars and machine guns for settlers. More than 100,000 machine guns were distributed for settlers after 7th of October 2023. And nowadays, also, he provided settlers with cars and vehicles and winter clothes. This is obviously means that this policy is a strategic policy by the state of occupation to make Palestinians leaving their homeland and their villages and towns and to go outside Palestine. Nowadays, I can see announcements on social media which encourages immigrants to Canada, sometimes to New Zealand, sometimes to Spain. As the war on Gaza from 2023 till now, the whole focus was on the war in Gaza. Settlers in the West Bank were carrying out crimes and terror attacks against Palestinians. They started in the village of Hawara and then the village of Tormosaya. They shot dead one Palestinian who held an American citizenship. And the same thing, there were two young people from Al-Mazra al-Sharqiyya. They are also American citizens and shot dead by settlers. And everywhere now, settlers carry attacks, terror attacks, and violence against Palestinians. And they make more than 48 Palestinians groups to leave their towns and villages in the main road from Ramallah to Jericho and in the Palestinian valleys in Jordan Valley and southern of Hebron in Masafir Yatta. They invade schools 2 weeks ago. One member of the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, he invaded a school, a Palestinian girls' schools. It is on the road between Nablus to Ramallah. And he threatens the teachers, I mean girls' teachers, and the girls' students. This means that we have also a neighboring village named Kif al-Haris. The settlers claim that there is tombs of Yosha bin Nun, and they came thousands during night to the village, and sometimes they attacked the people. They destroyed the belongings of the people, like cars and water pipes. And you just imagine that the entrance of Kif al-Haris is closed for the third year from 2023. Now we are in 2026, and the main entrance of the village is closed. The same thing referring to Wadi Kana. Nowadays, there is Palestinian families are living in Wadi Kana, but every day they are facing threats by settlers and they are attacking physically the Palestinian farmers. Some of them are old farmers. They have
Continue. Just as you
yes,
were
they have
I wanted to
their
show.
children and their grandchildren being attacked in front of their eyes by Israeli settlers. And when the army came to the area, they protect settlers because several times the Israeli officers, they told me that they are here to protect Israeli citizens.
Yes.
This is one important thing. Second thing, when the army came, they don't talk to settlers. They say that we are waiting for the Israeli police. And the Israeli police, rarely they reach the spot. They let settlers attack Palestinians and harm Palestinians. They don't take any action against settlers. So they make the living of Palestinians like it's a very great challenge for Palestinians nowadays to go to their fields, to go outside of the village. This is the impact of this policy on Palestinians. They are economic hardships because Palestinian farmers who depend on agriculture for their income nowadays, they have a lot of troubles to go outside the village, to go to their olive trees in order to spray the grasses or to plow the fields, or even to have their goats and sheep to the fields outside of the village, because settlers steal Palestinian cows, steal Palestinian sheep.
And that's all by design, as you pointed
My
out.
dear, I want to tell you one thing, which is actually, I cannot imagine that when we are in the in the 21st century, I go to visit my sister's house in the village of Deir Istiya. All of a sudden, there was a military jeep in front of the gate of the house. The soldier has a torch. He make the torch light into my eyes. I asked him, I want to enter to my sister's house. Then he allowed me. When I entered the house, I saw 3 settlers. They are armed with machine guns, and also they have torches, and they are searching the house of my sister and her relatives. They claim that they have stolen cows. So I asked him, what are you doing here? I talked to him in Hebrew. He said to me that they stole my cows. I told him, do you have a proof? Do you find your cows here? Then he was very angry, and he was carrying chairs and throwing them, destroying the chairs. And the soldiers, they didn't say anything. Just imagine when you are living in your house and living peacefully, all of a sudden, settlers, strange people, they come to your house and they start searching your house. They close the main door on you, and they put them, with the help of army, put people inside one room. This is the real situation that I hope that everyone who shows solidarity with Palestinian people to know and to convey our message to the whole world, that I was born in the year of occupation, 1967. I live whole my life now. I am 59 years old under occupation. I am worried about my children and my grandchildren. They are still living under occupation, you see, with the hardship and difficulties and suffering. We don't have freedom. We, as Palestinians, we have a dream of Palestinian independent state, to live freely, to live like other people all over the world, to live on our homeland freely, to practice our life without Israeli checkpoints, without Israeli attacks, without Israeli jails. And this is actually, I think it is a basic fundamentals of human rights. I think it is very important, and I want to thank and really appreciate you and other people who are joining us today for this webinar, to give a clear picture of what's going on the ground on the Palestinian occupied areas of the Israeli occupation forces and the different departments of the Israeli occupation state, like civil administration, like nature reserve and national park departments. And nowadays, there are certain decisions by the Israeli government to put their hands on large areas of Palestinian lands because of what they say, this is a state land. You just imagine that I go to my land on the western part of the village. They stop me and say, do you have documents that this is your land? for me, the owner of the land, I have to present documents to prove my ownership of the land. But for settlers who come, I don't know from where, they are young boys. I don't know. They have certain problems. They have certain records. Maybe they have problems. I don't know. But this policy was actually more than 25 years ago when Sharon and Netanyahu says, catch the hills. Nowadays we have youngs of the hills, and nowadays we have girls of the hills. They come, they raise the Israeli flag on a tent, and this has become an illegal outpost. In few hours, they have all basic infrastructures and services like water supply, electricity, and they have also military jeeps and soldiers who protect them.
Yes. I think shockingly over the last weeks and even the last days, I've also been seeing and hearing accounts of the new settlement outposts, which are illegal under Israeli law as well as international law, them being allowed to construct bomb shelters from the missiles, when Palestinian communities who have lived on the land since before 1967, when it came under Israeli control, are not permitted by the Israeli authorities and the militaries to build shelters. The discrimination and the dual legal system is overt and apparent for all to see. Unfortunately, we're drawing close to the end of our time for today's conversation. There's so much to discuss and so much that you brought to the surface, Nazmi, that's important for us to engage with. And you talked about the vision of a future in which the human rights of all people and of Palestinians are respected, and the rights to freedom of movement and self-determination. Do you have any last words you want to share with us today about the importance of solidarity and of joint action, shared action towards a future of freedom?
I hope that, first of all, once again, I want to thank you and appreciate your efforts. You and other who joined us, and all our friends all over the world who show solidarity to Palestinian people. And I want to thank activists from all over the world who used to come to the village of Deir Istiya. There was volunteers from different countries. Maybe some of them, they are now with us. We used to have a house of international women peace service in the village of Deir Istiya, and different international organizations. We apologize for them because long time, maybe because of the situation on the ground in the West Bank, we don't have contacts with them, but it is very important to thank them, and their role is very important to show the facts, the reality of the Israeli occupation state and Israeli settlers, what's going on the ground against Palestinian people in the 21st century, when the whole world is talking about human rights and the state of Israel violates human rights and Geneva Convention. And we want you and other volunteers to spread the facts of what's going on. It's very important. I want to say that you are the voice of the Palestinian people, to please to bring to the attention of the world what's going on in Palestine, and the people of Palestine, they deserve also to live like other people in the world, freely in an independent state, and to practice their basic human rights, to live freely without occupation. It is time to end occupation. It is time to end occupation. We can say in Arabic, كفى للاحتلال. In Hebrew, die لكيفوش. It is time to live freely. And thank you once again.
Thank you, Nazmi. Inshallah and Amen. And as painful as many of the realities are that you've described, and that as painful as the events are that are happening every day, being able to come together in forums such as this to connect and build connections and hear directly, to bear witness and act together towards freedom and justice is something that I hope will motivate all of us to continue. So thank you for joining and for teaching us, for sharing what's happening. And we hope this is only the first of many conversations in the future. Ramadan Kareem again to everyone in Deir Istiya.
Shukran. Thank you.
We'll be sending everyone here updates, of course, calls to action, emergency updates. For those who are able to stay past the hour, I think we'll show just the Wadi Kana Valley, a short video now of our recent trips there. If people here want to come in person on the ground to meet Nazmi in person, which I also haven't had yet the opportunity to do.
You will come anytime. If you
Inshallah.
have chance to visit us in Deir Istiya, this is your brother, Nazmi, and you will come in my house.
Thank you. I'm sure Mohammed, who is here with us today, will be happy to bring all of us and any of you who want to join on the ground to visit Deir Istiya and Wadi Kana. Here's just a glimpse of a recent day we had in the valley that can also shed light on the situation. And then we'll unfortunately have to close today's conversation.
Thank you.
The Wadi Kana Valley in the Qalqilya Governorate of the West Bank, where yesterday the Israeli military issued a mass eviction notice ordering 40 community members to evacuate the west of the valley within 14 days. Issam explained that in 1983, Israeli authorities declared 1,500 dunam of the valley a natural reserve and invited us to harvest oranges with the farmers as part of broader efforts to counter settler violence and bring their produce to market despite military closures. Issam, the families facing eviction, and Palestinian farmers throughout the West Bank are stewarding their lands every day while literally risking life and limb, arrest, and attack. Join our Solidarity Network to connect directly with Issam and other farmers and mobilize in direct response to calls to action from the ground.
So please stay tuned in the coming days for updates. We will send from events in Wadi Kana, from Deir Istiya, from Nazmi. And with that, unfortunately, we have to close our call for today. As I mentioned at the start of our conversation, your contributions for today's event will support urgent work of human rights defenders on the ground like Nazmi to challenge policies of forced transfer, displacement, and military occupation in the West Bank. They will help us sustain grassroots initiatives with Palestinian communities and human rights defenders on the ground, including the replanting of olive trees after arson attacks by settlers, rebuilding homes after demolitions, and cultivating land threatened with expropriation. As I said before, you can contribute at sowingsolidarity.com, which I'll send into the chat once more. And anyone who gives a monthly contribution of any amount from $3 to $300 a month, whatever is manageable, will become automatically a member of the Green Olive Solidarity Network and have access to monthly Solidarity Network meetings with human rights defenders on the ground and participate in global campaigns to support Palestinian farmers in Wadi Kana, Deir Istiya, Masafiriyata, and the Jordan Valley. And anyone who wants to join on the ground again is welcome to do so anytime. You can find out more about our solidarity missions at greenolivetours.com. And with that, thank you again, Nazmi. Shukran Kadir. Hope you and everyone stay safe. Hope you have a quiet evening, inshallah. We're sending our support to everyone around the world here calling for justice. And we will send a recording of this event to everyone tomorrow. Much thanks and have good and peaceful days. Talk to everyone soon. See you at upcoming events. Masalam.
Thank you. Thank you. Masalam.
Shukran.